Did you know that in 2022, the power sector alone was responsible for 25% of the United States greenhouse gas emissions? Now imagine the impact this has had on our health and our environment, yet we still lack the strong carbon pollution standards necessary to address it. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reported that atmospheric CO2 levels in 2019 reached 410 parts per million, which is the highest in 2 million years. These growing CO2 levels not only fuel climate change, but also harm public health and intensify extreme weather events today. So, today I will explain why stronger carbon emission regulations for power plants are critical, the causes of this ongoing issue, and the solutions that we can take to secure a sustainable future. So let's begin by addressing the problems. Oh, that didn't move. Wait. There you go. Okay. So power plants fueled by coal and natural gas release an enormous amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which obviously contributes heavily to climate change. The IPCC warns that if we continue with our current emission practices, the CO2 emissions from existing and planned fossil fuel infrastructure will completely deplete the remaining carbon budget needed to limit warming to 2 degrees Celsius. Now, this threshold is significant because it also represents a widely recognized target, which is highlighted in the Paris Agreement. This target is based on years of research and indicating that if we exceed the limit, we'll lose our ability to prevent catastrophic impacts like rising sea levels and severe weather. And this just isn't an environmental issue. The IPCC also highlights the health consequences of emissions such as increased cases of asthma, infectious diseases, and mental health challenges. And on top of that, extreme weather events like heat waves and hurricanes are already becoming more frequent and devastating homes, livelihoods, and communities. So now that we talked about the problems, let's talk about the causes for these problems. The primary issue is that existing regulations aren't strict enough or comprehensive enough. The Environmental Protection Agency, also known as the EPA, acknowledges that current rules allow many power plants to continue emitting unchecked CO2. Now, why? Why can they still do that? Well, because powerful industry stakeholders often weaken emission reductions strategies during the legislative process. Another challenge we face is economic resistance. Industries argue that implementing emission controls such as carbon capture and storage technology is just too expensive. However, the EPA emphasizes that costs are designed to be reasonable and can only be applied to companies that can actually afford them. So that completely avoids that argument. Lastly, there's our long-standing dependence on fossil fuels. For over a century, the U.S. has relied on coal and gas power to power its energy infrastructure. Now, it's not going to be easy to transition over from that, but it's an essential step that we need to take. So let's talk about the steps that we can actually take to help aid in this issue. So the EPA is the ones proposing these changes. Why can we trust them? Well, they hire the best scientists and the best engineers. And also their track record over the decades, they have contributed significant improvements into the air and quality of our environment. For example, the agency actions have led to the reduction of lead in gasoline, which in turn improved air quality in cities all across the U.S. So the EPA has proposed updated emission guidelines and performance standards to tackle this issue. These stricter measures will mandate carbon capture technology and set emissions limits for both coal and natural gas power plants. According to the EPA projections, these updated standards, combined with the Inflation Reduction Act, could reduce CO2 emissions by over 62% from 2022 levels by 2035. That's a significant step toward achieving the 1.5 degrees Celsius global warming target. Now, beyond reducing the emissions, the EPA also highlights the health benefits of these regulations. For example, by 2035, they could prevent approximately 1,200 premature deaths, 870 hospital visits, and thousands of asthma cases annually. The EPA also plans to work closely with states, providing flexibility for local challenges while ensuring consistent and timely implementation of emission reduction plans. This collaboration approach makes for solutions to be more practical and effective on the state level, so in turn it'll just make everything happen more quickly. So now let's talk about, in conclusion, we've explored the problem and its causes and the solutions. Although addressing carbon emissions may seem daunting, it's a necessary step in securing a future where we can all thrive. And the IPCC warns that the window for action is rapidly closing. So over 3.6 billion people already live in areas highly vulnerable to climate change. These people are our families, our friends, our teachers, our coworkers, us. The choices we make today will echo for thousands of years. So I ask you, will you turn your back on those you love and the planet we call home, or will you join the call for stronger carbon pollution standards? The power to shape our future is in your hands.